So the other day we learned a lot about the upcoming project this fall, something that seems to be just a strange situation in and of its own right for more Modern Warfare coming, but while we're of course not covering breaking news here at this, today I wanted to examine the situation with COD 2023 and what is maybe like dubbed a Modern Warfare 3 and give a little feedback on where this may go. So as we go along, drop your thoughts below. Are you liking the sound of another shot at Modern Warfare come this fall? Are you jaded by what's already come of Modern Warfare 2 thus far? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts. If you're new to the channel as well and you'd like to stay up to date with all things COD related, Modern Warfare 2 and all seasons to come, and anything in the future with, say, a Modern Warfare 3, maybe consider subscribing. I'd love to have you in the community, but for now, let's talk about the future and what we've heard so far. So for those unaware, a few days back, Jason Schreier of Bloomberg, industry insider with one of the most credible track records out there, put out an article entitled Activision's Call of Duty game this year is more Modern Warfare. Now, this isn't anything that's necessarily new information. He himself has been echoing this on Twitter now for a few months at this point, but what is new is the information and the details that this article held. So let's hear that out. It states, Activision's goal for the new Call of Duty is to feel like a standalone full-priced release and also an extension of Modern Warfare 2, said people familiar with the project. The current plan is for the game to carry over maps and modes from last year's shooter, the people said, although they cautioned that plans may change again between now and the release this fall. Activision has made several changes to the blockbuster schedule after the 2020 entry in the series failed to meet expectations, that being Vanguard, leading some executives to believe that they were introducing new versions too rapidly. The expansion was planned to be big with a single-player campaign and several multiplayer maps, and eventually it morphed into a full game release. Sledgehammer's new Modern Warfare game, the name is still unclear but will probably not be Modern Warfare 3, is now slated for this fall, the people said, declining to be named because they were not authorized to speak to the press. Activision spokesperson Neil Wood noted the company has announced that a premium Call of Duty game will arrive this year and that they have nothing new to share. An interesting follow-up, however, maybe puts this project in some perspective, stating some current and former employees of Sledgehammer Games are worried about the schedule, which has given the company less than 2 years to develop the game, a similar schedule for the studio's previous game, 2021's Call of Duty Vanguard. That led to a difficult period of overtime for staff. That game also didn't perform as well as Activision had anticipated and received generally negative reviews. This time around, some developers say they're more optimistic because they're receiving more support from Activision Studios, including Treyarch and Infinity Ward, whose leadership are also supervising the new game. At one point, Activision executives were briefing staff on a brand new vision for Call of Duty in which the series would switch between Modern Warfare and Black Ops games, each receiving 2 years of support, but any long-term plans at Microsoft remain hazy and tentative as the company awaits to finalize its acquisition by Microsoft Corp. The $69 billion deal is pending regulatory approval. So that is a hell of a lot to unpack and break down, but firstly, what's not named Modern Warfare 3, but just for the sake of understanding where we are chronologically, I'm probably gonna, just for simplicity's sake, call it Modern Warfare 3, but this project, again, isn't anything necessarily new. It was rumored for a while to be a larger expansion of the game and what we saw with Modern Warfare 2, even though I'm sure that we all kind of expected maybe a bit more from what we had out of this mainline Modern Warfare 2 offering. But I mean, the new campaign, the new maps and stuff like that, that's all been something we've heard about before. Most of those, if not all of those maps included, were rumored to be original Modern Warfare 2 2009 maps coming back into play 10 plus years later at this point for the 20-year anniversary of the franchise. But the one key detail here that really sticks out to me is that they stated that Modern Warfare 2's content will carry over into Modern Warfare 3, and this, if working as it seems as described, would honestly be a really game-changing thing in my opinion. It only states from this maps and modes, but if the whole experience transfers, that's seriously revolutionary for the COD franchise, and I say that with a hard emphasis on the COD franchise because yes, other games have done this, but when we look at it, Warzone kind of revolutionized this on the free-to-play aspect where your annual introductions and things like skins, weapons, all that kind of stuff were relevant and playable for 3 years rather than what we saw previously of just year over year, everything didn't matter come that next fall. But if that also happens in the premium experience where maybe your purchased items transfer over year through multiplayer as well, that might be one of the coolest things that was tucked away in this statement, where it offers more air quote value to your camos you unlock, to your weapons you unlock, and all things like that, on top of maps, modes, and anything else that may be included in that. And it also bolsters out the future of what could happen. Now, whether it does or not, we'll touch on it here a little bit later. We know Treyarch is coming in with a different game that isn't Modern Warfare, so it wouldn't work canonically, but also it may be more of a barrier that is extended only to a 2-year window, but still, 2 years of relevance rather than 1 is pretty cool if you ask me. But that'd be a hell of a way to sell this expansion as a new experience. A new campaign, new multiplayer weapons, maps, and all, but also including potentially everything from this past year. I feel like that'd be a nice launch offering, assuming that Sledgehammer can keep up the pace of what we normally see with launch content totals, but then add in on top of that everything we still see now. But that also means that, similar to the Warzone experience in Cold War, any items ported into this game could, and a big emphasis on could, be subject to change for any fundamental gameplay changes. If Sledgehammer wanted to implement things like radar pings, perks of dead silence, movement adjustments, and all that kind of stuff, all the content that we see right now could, in theory, be also introduced into that gameplay experience, fundamentally shifting some of the way that we see Modern Warfare 2 content, but in a sort of air quote Modern Warfare 3 light, if there's anything that changes fundamentally like that. So interesting to see for sure. That was the one thing that really stuck out of these statements here to me. But on the flip side of things, while that may sound cool, there is that feeling that developers are worried about this while others could be optimistic. And admittedly, that's kind of how I think we all should feel, because, I mean, with less time in development, that is definitely worrisome. Vanguard was a half-baked game from start to finish for a number of reasons, and I think that it was apparent in just about every single aspect. The campaign was quite literally the most filler campaign I think I've ever seen. The main story and narrative progressed in, I'm not even exaggerating, only the first and last mission of a 6-hour campaign. Everything else was filler origin stories. The zombies, well, that really wasn't presentable until months after launch, and multiplayer, well, it was good at launch in terms of content offering, in terms of like maps and stuff like that, weaponry, but then we had 2 maps a season for the entire duration of the post-launch year of support, the lowest that we have ever seen. So it was a game that, as this article describes, was on limited runway to complete, having seen Sledgehammer pulled from Cold War after Treyarch came in and took over that project, and then immediately after finishing, they get pushed to a year or 2 of content for a Modern Warfare 2 expansion. That's also why I'd imagine we didn't see any post-launch support. We only saw those 2 maps going beyond Vanguard's launch, but also slightly deviating. Also curious why we are seeing so little for Modern Warfare 2. That's not the same case. Vanguard at least kind of had a reason. So on one hand, this Modern Warfare 3 in air quotes is kind of the same thing, but on the other, this time they apparently have support alongside it. Vanguard, they were just going at it solo essentially. But Treyarch and Infinity Ward being included in the design and development of it, I think that's definitely a distinguishing factor that should hopefully elevate the product a little more than what we saw with Vanguard. But that said, still, not a lot of runway to work with, not a lot of time to churn out a whole new project, so we'll see how that all works out. Definitely going in skeptical for me. Now, that said, another thing that this report alleged was that there are plans to support 2-year cycles going forward, Black Ops and Modern Warfare games. Though again, everything is pending whether or not Microsoft ends up acquiring Activision Blizzard, but for the time being, those are the tentative plans. But that said, I mean, if Sledgehammer's coming in and making a secondary year and secondary content offering for Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare air quote 3, well, does Treyarch then have something for 2024 and another studio has to come in 2025, or will that truly get a 2-year support window? That's the big questions that this still leaves open-ended here in that regard. So that said, there's a lot to digest with that, but at the risk of being overly optimistic, and maybe that's just me fundamentally, I always like to hope to see that things can get better. Whether or not they do, I mean, who knows? But my hope is maybe this fall is better. I don't know. I want to believe so, but I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Infinity Ward is the most stubborn of the studios from all that I've witnessed across 10 plus years of following this franchise and this game. And I'd echo that even from the discussions that I've been lucky enough to sit in on my own. And I mean, to each their own. If they have a vision for their product, they're not required to deviate from that and cave to outside influence. But at the same time, that same logic applies to players, where they're also not required to like it, play it, or buy it. So that give and take, the stricter you are with it, the more you kind of alienate your player base, for better or for worse, depending on where you look at it. But with Sledgehammer at the helm of this year's expansion project, I'm at least hopeful that maybe we can see the game that we maybe hoped for with this year's Modern Warfare 2, because Sledgehammer, from all accounts that I've personally run in with, both behind the scenes stuff, talking with developers and the staff over there, as well as just seeing what they've done in the past where they've changed games sometimes on the fly entirely. I mean, the Division overhaul that happened in World War II's main year of support, that fundamentally changed the entire basis of that game. They are the studio to me that always tries to do well by the community. They want to make a game not for one specific subset of players, i.e. Sentinels or campers, but instead they want to make sure everybody has a good time, and they'll take that feedback into account. Like, there are so many things that I'm not at liberty to discuss that I know for a fact Sledgehammer fought for that would have been awesome for the community, and things that you could earn and end up getting in game, but things that Activision just shut down entirely. So if they can have their way with it, I do think that we might see some really cool changes here that maybe we expected with Modern Warfare 2, but instead just a year delayed. And honestly, that's a big selling point there, because we've gone through what will be a year at that point. Is it way too late for those changes? I would not argue with it if you said yes. in that regard, it's interesting what 2023 may hold, but for right now, these reports that we keep hearing are definitely interesting to me, and I want to share this with you guys and give some of my input. So that said, let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of this year? Again, are you looking forward to maybe some changes in maybe a Modern Warfare title that we hope to see here with this year, but later this fall? Are you jaded enough that you don't really care even? Whatever the case, drop your thoughts down below. But for now, that's what we're going to call it. So if you enjoyed the video, you found it at all insightful, do me a favor and drop a like on it. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single thing on all things Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and anything COD related, COD 2023 stuff as well. Make sure that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. But for now, thanks so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. Take care and peace.